Jackson Arnold was also big on the recruiting trail this offseason, not only for the high school ranks, but in the transfer portal. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jackson Arnold also had a big hand in bringing one Branson Hickman to Oklahoma, meeting with the media. He mentioned how he knew of Jackson Arnold growing up in the DFW area. He was aware of what Jackson Arnold was doing with Denton Guyer. And when Branson Hickman was in the portal and was considering where to go, Jackson Arnold was a big voice in that.
Yeah, as you can see, the quarterback has stepped up as a leader. I love the propaganda that was put out from practice as well, showing Jackson leading the Sooner Jacks. And yeah, you're starting to see that he's starting to come in his own, right? He's vocal enough. He's persuasive. And as Branson Hickman mentioned, that was one thing that was key to him coming, right? He watched him play. He sees the talent, and he wants to play for a really good quarterback. Boom. Sold him right there on the spot. And so adding that with Bill Bedenbaugh's record and what he's done, his track record of getting offensive linemen to the league, his track record of getting guys drafted high, his track record of his guys getting paid, Hickman understood the assignment and said, nah, I want to play with this guy. So I'm loving the fact that, I mean, the togetherness that we're seeing with this team, everybody's really praising each other and is excited about each other. Man, all they got to do is go out there and execute. It's going to be a special season.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold, he's always kind of shown that he's got that capability, but was humble enough and willing to take a back seat as a true freshman to Dillon Gabriel, and even talked all offseason about the things that he learned from Gabriel as he sat and watched him lead and go about his business as an experienced college quarterback. And so it's just now Jackson Arnold's time to go and take the reins and do just that. And it's encouraging that Jackson Arnold has a reputation even before he kind of takes over as a starting quarterback, because he's only started one game. And we saw what that game was, both the good 380 passing yards and the bad 4 turnovers. But there was a lot of good. And for a guy like Branson Hickman, you combine wanting to go and compete at the highest level with a guy like Jackson Arnold, who he called a great quarterback. You want to go play for a great quarterback that gives you a chance to win. And then combine that with a guy like Bill Bedenbaugh, who, I mean, he helped create the best center in the NFL in Creed Humphrey, a guy that was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school, is now the best center in the NFL. A lot of that, Creed Humphrey's work, Creed Humphrey's diligence, Bill Bedenbaugh's tutelage. So if you're an offensive lineman and you're looking for examples of success, look no further than Creed Humphrey and Bill Bedenbaugh, a guy, again, that was underrated coming to Oklahoma and then left the game as arguably one of the greatest college football centers of all time and is now easily the best NFL center of all time.
Exactly. So Hickman understood the assignment. He saw where he needed to go. Boom. Here he is here at Oklahoma. But he also talked about some of the other players, too, on the roster. And there was one lineman that jumped out to him. And when he said it, I was like, okay, we all saw. We knew that he was going to say that. And it was it's EPL, Eddie Pierre-Louis, right? He's rocking around with his, as they call them, the hater blockers. We've seen the pictures and videos of him rocking them. But, seeing him without them, dude looks mean, fast, strong, and Branson really praised him as a freshman. He's like, he's the one that stuck out to me day one. And I think it's impressive the fact that he, we can tell that he's lost a whole bunch of weight, but he's still nice and stocky, that, he got Hickman's attention, right? Because Hickman comes in, he was one of the higher graded players, on PFF, as far as the transfers coming in. He was actually a highest graded guy coming in this season, and he's also considered a top-rated dude in the SEC. And so now all we got to do is watch him execute. And I'm glad he's on our side. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, just another guy that you look at the depth of the offensive line, and it goes beyond just the guys that we project to be starters. I don't think anybody projected Caden Green to take a starting role last year. Well, by midseason, he had one, and he didn't give it up the rest of the way. Here's hoping that's not the case, that who you roll out as your starting five week one is your starting five throughout the season. You have that continuity. But if there's a true freshman coming into this season that has a chance to break into the starting lineup in 2024, how would you put any money against anybody other than EPL? Good
EPL's
college size already, great athleticism, great strength, physicality. Dude looks fierce. He's the dude. If you're going to put money on any true freshman to break into the starting alignment, especially on offensive line, it'd be EPL.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's probably the one you would pick, mainly because, like I say, he comes in with the sides. It's either him or Eugene Brooks, right? I think those two interior guys, they were the higher rated guys in the class, and they're the ones that definitely jumped out for a lot of people. I think Eugene Brooks or BJ Brooks, whichever you want to call him, he's trimmed down as well, but not as much as what EPL did. EPL also runs track, so he comes in with a lot more agility. So if there's a freshman that would probably play, it's going to be probably one of those two. If you end up on the tackle side, of course, Isaiah Autry is one that's destined to play, especially with the way that Schmitty has beefed him up. Line's going to be big, man. I love the fact that we have an offensive line with everybody over 300 pounds.
Yeah. Like, you're not having to build these guys up over 300 and then get them up to 320. No, you're starting with a really, really nice base, and then you can work to get them up to 320. You know, I hate to keep bringing this dude up, but a Savion Byrd, like, he was walking around at 270, 280, and it took everything in them to keep that weight on him, as opposed to him losing weight. They could never get him up to 300, but he was having to play guard, and that just wasn't working, and it wasn't going to work going into the SEC. I'll be curious to see how it works playing against the ACC, playing against teams like Clemson. I don't know if Clemson's on SMU's schedule or not, but against ACC teams, it's going to be a challenge. But yeah, Oklahoma's already got a better base from which to develop these true freshman offensive linemen. They're not having to put so much effort and work into getting them where they want them to be. So yeah, that's fascinating. I think the other kind of moment, and maybe we'll talk about this next, but just the idea that Peyton Bowen was one of the first out to speak with the media as well. You know, the first media session, you had Damonic Williams, who nobody had heard from, Branson Hickman, who nobody had heard from, Nic Anderson, a guy who is also becoming a leader on this team. We're going to talk about him coming up next. But that Peyton Bowen got an opportunity to be out in front of the media. I think that goes to show just what the coaching staff thinks of him, what the safety room thinks of him, and where he's headed as a player. Let's discuss some of that coming up next, and we'll also get into some of Nic Anderson's comments from the first media session of fall camp coming up on Locked On.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.